Guy Madison reveals the names of gay actors from old Hollywood that he secretly dated. Guy Madison was born with the name Robert Ozell Mosley on January 19, 1922, in Kern County, California. He grew up during the Great Depression and came from a poor family. His early life was about small-town values, and he never thought about becoming an actor at first. After he finished at Bakersfield College, he studied how to take care of farm animals because he wanted to work in farming. But then, World War II started and changed his plans. Madison joined the United States Navy during the war and did a good job as a Navy radio operator in the Pacific. His time in the military taught him discipline, love for his country, and staying humble, things that people would see in the characters he played later. It was during a short break in Hollywood in 1944 that Madison's life completely changed. A talent agent named Henry Wilson discovered him and saw that he looked amazing and thought he could be a movie star. Madison's first time on screen happened that same year, with a small role where his name wasn't even mentioned in the romantic drama Since You Went Away by David O. Selznick, where he played a clean-cut soldier, which really connected with Americans during wartime, even though he had almost no acting experience. Madison's first appearance got fans super excited, and Hollywood quickly noticed. Selznick gave him a contract, and he was soon being prepared for stardom. During the late 1940s, Madison appeared in several movies that used his all-American good guy image, including Till the End of Time in 1946, which starred him with Robert Mitchum, and Honeymoon in 1947. Even though critics at first gave him extra views because he didn't have much acting background, Madison's natural charm and honest performances slowly won over audiences. His biggest success came when he played the main character in the popular television and radio series, The Adventures of Wild Bill Hickok, which was on TV from 1951 to 1958. The show was a Western based on the real-life frontier, Marshall, and made Madison a pop culture icon. Dressed in cowboy clothes with his sidekick Jingles, played by Andy Devine, Madison brought Wild Bill Hickok to life with tough heroism and friendly warmth. The series reached millions of viewers and was one of the first shows to be on both television and radio at the same time. Kids looked up to him, adults respected him, and his character helped create the golden age of westerns in American TV. His face was on lunchboxes, comic books, and even cereal boxes, and he regularly showed up at rodeos and public events, always meeting fans with kindness and staying humble. Even though he was successful on television, Madison kept acting in movies throughout the 1950s and 1960s. He appeared in many westerns and action-adventure films, including The Charge at Feather River in 1953, which became famous for its cool use of 3D sound effects. As Western movies became less popular, Madison moved much of his career to other countries, especially to Italy, where he starred in many spaghetti westerns and war films during the 1960s. These European movies kept his career going strong, and he became well known to audiences around the world, even though these films sometimes didn't have big budgets. Madison always did his roles with professionalism and honesty. As the years went by, Madison slowly stepped away from being famous. He stopped acting in the late 1970s, but people still loved him at classic film festivals and Western conventions, where fans of all ages would come together to celebrate the legacy of Wild Bill Hickok and the golden era of Westerns. In 1996, Madison got a Golden Boot Award for what he did for Western films and television, which recognized his lasting impact on Western movies. In 1949, when Guy Madison was at the peak of his Hollywood fame, he married actress Gail Russell, another star who had amazed audiences with her haunting beauty and emotionally powerful performances in films, like The Uninvited in 1944, and Angel and the Bad Man in 1947. People saw their marriage as a glamorous match because both were young, attractive, and quickly becoming more successful in their careers. But behind the scenes, their relationship had a lot of emotional problems. Russell was a very sensitive and shy woman who struggled with intense social anxiety and alcoholism, a problem that got worse because of the pressures of Hollywood life. Madison, even though he was supportive at first, found that he couldn't handle the emotional stress and instability that came with his wife's inner problems. As Madison's own acting career kept getting better, including his starring role in The Adventures of Wild Bill Hickok, the emotional and physical distance between the couple got bigger. They ended up separating in 1953 after 4 years of marriage, and their divorce became final in October 1954. Even though their marriage ended sadly, Madison reportedly stayed caring toward Russell and her personal struggles, though their lives would go very different ways after that. In a surprising turn of events, Madison got married again shortly after his divorce from Russell was final. In late October 1954, he married actress Sheila Connolly in a civil ceremony in Juarez, Mexico, a popular place for quick marriages and divorces back then. Connolly, known for her roles in 1950s westerns and dramas, shared Madison's love for the outdoors and family life, and their relationship seemed stable and loving at first. The couple settled into home life and had 3 daughters, Bridget, Erin, and Dolly. Madison, who had grown up in a big family himself, reportedly was very proud of being a father and tried to balance his Hollywood career with spending time with his children. But the stress of life in the entertainment industry, combined with Madison's frequent travel for film and television work, both in the United States and Europe, started to hurt their marriage. By November 1960, the couple had separated, and their divorce became final in April 1963. Even though their marriage ended, Madison stayed friendly with Connolly and was actively involved in his daughters' lives. In the years after that, Madison became romantically involved with actress Gia Scala, a stunning beauty of Italian and Irish background, who had made her mark in films like The Guns of Navarone in 1961. Their relationship, while never made official by marriage, was described by some of their friends as intense and emotionally complicated. Scala, known for her charm and vulnerability, had also faced struggles similar to those of Madison's first wife, including problems with depression and alcohol. Even so, she and Madison stayed close, and according to biographical sources, their connection was meaningful enough that before her early and mysterious death in 1972, Scala named Madison as the person who would get her portion of the Screen Actors Pension Fund. This action was seen by many as a sign of deep love and trust, and it showed the lasting connection they shared, even if their relationship wasn't a traditional one. In addition to his daughters, from his marriage to Sheila Connolly, Guy Madison had a son named Robert Madison who would go on to follow his father's path by becoming an actor. Born from a different relationship later in Madison's life, Robert was raised in Italy, where Madison spent a lot of time during the 1960s and 1970s. Acting in European films, especially in the spaghetti western genre, Robert built a respectable acting career of his own in Italy, appearing in television and film productions. Even though there was distance between generations and geography, the bond between father and son was meaningful. Guy Madison reportedly gave guidance and support to Robert as he dealt with the challenges of life in the entertainment industry, passing on both his professional experience and a legacy of strength and adaptability that had defined his own career. For decades, Guy Madison was known to the public as the square-jawed, soft-spoken star of westerns and war films. He was most famous for playing Wild Bill Hickok in the long-running television series The Adventures of Wild Bill Hickok. His chiseled good looks, quiet personality, and boy-next-door charm made him a heartthrob of the 1940s and 50s, with tons of adoring female fans. But behind the rugged Hollywood image and fake public persona, Madison lived a much more complex and private reality, one shaped by the strict moral rules of the studio system and the constant threat of being exposed in an era that really hated homosexuality. In a book published after his death, compiled from interviews and personal letters, Madison reveals the hidden chapters of his life, including deeply personal and heartfelt stories of the romantic relationships he had with several fellow actors, many of whom were also closeted and bound by the same harsh rules. For the first time, names and faces from Hollywood's golden age are revealed, not in scandal, but with quiet dignity, as men who loved and lived in secret, fearing their careers would be ruined in a time when even a whisper of homosexuality could end everything. Madison's thoughts paint a picture of strength, longing, and human connection. He openly talks about his relationship with Ramon Navarro, the silent film star best known for his role in Ben-Hur, A Tale of the Christ in 1925. Ramon was gentle, spiritual, and wiser than anyone gave him credit for. Madison writes, "We'd meet in quiet corners of West Hollywood or slip away to Palm Springs, pretending we needed rest and relaxation. What we found there was peace. The kind of peace neither of us could have in our public lives." He also speaks with warmth and love about Tyrone Power, the swashbuckling movie star whose bisexuality was whispered about but never confirmed during his lifetime. Madison describes Power as charismatic and conflicted, a man who carried tea. "We connected in the twilight of his stardom when the cameras stopped rolling and the masks came off. In those rare, quiet moments, we were just two men trying to understand what love could be when the world refused to see it." Another name, Madison reveals, is Anthony Perkins, the psycho star whose sexual orientation remained largely an open secret among Hollywood insiders. Their relationship, Madison notes, was short-lived but intense. Tony was young and haunted, always a little unsure of how much he could reveal, even to someone who understood what was at stake, Madison recalls. "We shared a few passionate months, tangled in both excitement and anxiety. He always seemed to be looking over his shoulder, and for good reason." Perhaps most touching, Madison talks about his bond with Rock Hudson, whose 1985 AIDS-related death marked a huge shift in public talk about homosexuality in Hollywood. Madison describes their relationship as equal parts joy and sorrow. "Rock had the smile of a golden boy and the soul of a man who had to break himself into pieces to survive. Our time together was stolen. Just weekends in Big Bear or quiet dinners in his canyon hideaway. but even stolen moments can be timeless. Throughout his writings, Madison is careful not to make things sound dramatic for shock value. His tone is thoughtful, respectful, and filled with compassion, born of shared experience. These weren't just names or flings. They were meaningful connections in a world that often denied their very possibility. We didn't date in the way people think of dating now, he explains. It was secretive, coded, cautious, but it was real. We laughed, we held each other, we watched the sunrise, and talked about the lives we wished we could have lived out in the open. The memoir, aside from being revealing, also sheds light on the damage that secrecy and fear caused to the emotional well-being of gay men in mid-century Hollywood. Madison discusses the anxiety of studio contracts with morality clauses, the constant threat of tabloid exposure, and the psychological weight of constantly hiding one's identity. There were times I thought I might go crazy from pretending, he admits. Every interview, every photo op with a female co-star, it was all an act. But the real performance was never on screen. It was in daily life. Yet Madison doesn't only focus on the dark side. He also celebrates the quiet victories, the coded love letters, the secretive glances across sound stages, the comfort of a hand held under a restaurant table. We carved out happiness where we could, he writes. In a world that tried to deny us love, we found it anyway. Guy Madison's decision to tell his truth, even after his death, casts new light on the stories of many actors whose names remain buried in coded biographies and cleaned up studio histories. His memoir not only reclaims his personal truth, but contributes to the broader effort to honor the lives of LGBTQ+ individuals who shaped and were shaped by Hollywood's golden age. After his retirement from a long and successful career in film and television, Guy Madison chose to settle in the quiet and beautiful Morongo Valley, located in Southern California's high desert. Known for its scenic beauty, wide mountain views, and peaceful atmosphere, the Morongo Valley provided a perfect retreat for Madison, who had spent decades in the spotlight. There he built a large ranch-style home that showed his love of the outdoors and his desire for privacy and peace in his later years. The property served not only as his home, but also as a place where he could enjoy the natural surroundings, entertain close friends, and do leisure activities like horseback riding and gardening, hobbies that had long appealed to the actor, especially given his history in westerns and action-adventure roles. As time went on, however, Madison's health began to get worse. He suffered from emphysema, a chronic and progressive lung condition, often linked to smoking, which severely limited his ability to move around and breathe in his final years. Despite the illness, he reportedly stayed as active as his condition allowed, receiving visits from friends and staying in contact with many former colleagues and admirers who remembered him fondly for his work in classic television and movies. Guy Madison passed away on February 6, 1996, at the age of 74. He died at the Desert Hospital Hospice in Palm Springs, California, a facility known for providing compassionate end-of-life care. His death marked the end of an era for fans who had grown up watching him on screen during the golden age of Hollywood westerns, particularly in his iconic role as Wild Bill Hickok. Madison was buried at Forest Lawn Cemetery in Cathedral City, California, a peaceful and beautifully landscaped cemetery that is the final resting place for many of Hollywood's notable figures. His burial there placed him among fellow stars and reflected the lasting impact he had on the entertainment industry. The funeral service was a modest but heartfelt affair, attended by close friends, family members, and former colleagues who had known Madison personally and professionally. Among those who paid tribute to him was Don Burnett, a close personal friend and fellow actor who had moved into a career as a stockbroker. Burnett spoke at the funeral, giving a eulogy that reflected on Madison's career accomplishments, his character, and the lasting friendships he had formed throughout his life. His words honored Madison not just as a public figure and beloved actor, but as a loyal friend and a humble man who had lived with integrity, grace, and quiet dignity.